Once again, the Divine Word Missionaries Web TV News is here bringing to you the January 2023 edition of our worldwide news. In this edition, we'll bring you news about the visit in Ukraine of the Superior General Budikledin and the General Councillor Eric Copper, the testimonies of some SVD about the late Pope Benedict XVI, the gathering of the SVD in Botswana province, the meeting of the First Commission of the SVD upcoming General Chapter, the celebration of the Feast of Arnold Johnson, and the January Caucus in Rome. I am Eunice Sabina Dola. Please stay with us. On the morning of 31st December 2022, the Vatican Press Office announced the death of the 95-year-old Pope Emeritus at 9:34 a.m., that day at the residence of the Vatican's Mater Ecclesiae Monastery. On 5th January 2023 at 9:30 a.m., in the parish of St. Peter's Basilica, the Holy Father Francis presided over the funeral mass for the late Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI in front of a crowd of faithful. Afterwards, the body of the deceased pontiff was transferred to the Vatican grotto for burial. It should be remembered that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI met the Divine Word missionaries personally on several occasions, as individual or as a group. Benedict XVI, also known as Professor Joseph Ratzinger, was also professor of Father Vincent Tume, who shares with us his memories of the late Pope.
I have many memories, evidently. I studied with him starting in 1971, 52 years ago, this January in actual fact, when I first came to see him. Previously I was studying in Münster under Karl Rahner, and felt dissatisfied with Karl Rahner for various reasons. And then I applied to Ratzinger, and he said, come down. So I took the overnight train, got off in the morning, got a taxi out to his house. First impressions are lasting. He lived in a very simple house outside on the periphery of the town, not too far from the university, in a little parish called Pentling. It was simplicity itself. And he himself was completely not like the usual big, pompous professors, German professors. Very simple man. His sister was a very simple woman, his brother too, she was his housekeeper. And my first memory of it was of him, so he listened to me. And I had all kinds of plans as a young theologian. I knew all the problems I was going to solve. He quietly listened and smiled, and then said, I will accept you as my doctoral thesis, doctoral student. And that's listening, I think, is one of his primary characteristics, his capacity to listen to people. If you met him, he gave you his full attention.
You can follow the whole interview on our YouTube channel. On 9th July 2012, Pope Benedict XVI visited the Divine Word missionaries gathered for the 17th General Chapter at the Adventist Center in Nemi, a short distance from the Apostolic Palace of Castel Gandolfo, where the pontiff was spending a brief period of rest. And it was not a casual decision. It was precisely in this house that, in 1965, the Second Vatican Council's Commission on Mission, charged with preparing the conciliar decree on the missions, Ad Gentis, met. A number of theologians took part in the Commission's meetings as experts, including Joseph Ratzinger, who was 38 years old at the time. For the pontiff, returning to the place he knew during the years of the council would be a trip down memory lane. Some capitules of that general chapter speak of Benedict XVI.
Yes, it was a big joy to meet Pope Benedict for the first time, and the only time, as one of the elected new council members. We were given a special place, so closer to him. Also, the opportunity to shake his hands. Also, I remember that at that occasion he said, and it was really reason for joy for everybody at the chapter, recalling his memory of the days when he was in Nemi working on the document Ad Gentis. He said that it was a very beautiful experience, even perhaps the most beautiful experience during the council. So it created a big joy it was a reason for a big joy for everybody. And also later on I heard that he was asking about Anthropos Institute, about Stadtgottes in Germany. So yes, our congregation was in his memory, close to him. And it is a good feeling to know that, yes, that the Pope, leader of the Catholic Church, is close to us, and we are close to him. We are working in the name of the Church, so it is good to know that.
O que mais me impressionou foi a sua simplicidade. Depois impressionou-me o facto de ele ter feito este acento que o bem que recebemos deve ser dado. Ou seja, a missão é dar o amor que recebemos de Deus e que não podemos guardar para nós próprios. E depois foi muito interessante que ele também estava muito contente de ter voltado a NEMI depois de 47 anos. E depois do nosso encontro na igreja, a segurança levaram-no para junto do carro para regressar a Castelo Gandolfo, mas ele deu-se conta de que faltava alguma coisa e começou a caminhar para o outro lado da casa para ver o lago. E ali demorou-se durante algum tempo e parecia bastante feliz por ter revisitado aquela paisagem belíssima de NEMI, onde, como um jovem padre, ele tinha estado a participar nos trabalhos da Comissão de préparation du décret ad gentes.
Ce qui m'a impressionné, c'est le fait de voir d'abord le pape comme ça pour ma toute première fois dans ma vie. Et le fait qu'il soit venu nous voir à Nemi, là où nous étions pour les chapitres, ça m'a aussi impressionné. Bon, peut-être qu'il était tout près de nous, puisqu'il était à Castel Gandolfo, et c'est tout près de Nemi. Peut-être c'était pour ça. Mais ce déplacement m'a beaucoup impressionné, puisque normalement, les capitulaires vont au Vatican pour le voir. Mais cette fois-ci, il est venu chez nous. Et il connaissait bien l'endroit, puisqu'il était là, je pense, pendant les réunions du Concile Vatican II, non? Il y avait une commission aussi à Nîmes, il semble qu'il était là, peut-être pour cette raison. Mais cette décision-là, de venir nous voir, ça m'a beaucoup impressionné. Ce que je peux dire aussi, ce qui m'a aussi beaucoup frappé et ce qui m'a émerveillé de plus, c'est le fait de parler avec lui. J'étais parmi les rares confrères qu'il a posé des questions. Il voulait savoir qui j'étais et il m'a demandé d'où viens-tu? Je viens du Congo. Et il continua, quel Congo? De quel Congo s'agit-il? Il dit du Congo-Kinshasa. Il dit, ah bon? Alors ça m'a vraiment émerveillé et j'étais très émerveillé de parler avec lui. Ça, ce sont les deux choses qui m'ont vraiment impressionné.
Eu posso partilhar com vocês 3 impressões. A primeira era a expectativa de encontrar-me com uma pessoa muito grande pela sua função, pelo seu papel na história, mas, na verdade, a sua estatura era muito pequena. Um homem baixo, pequeno, com muita fragilidade e, ao mesmo tempo, transmitia até mesmo docilidade no falar. A sua forma de comunicar, eu diria, a segunda impressão, porque ele abriu mão de um discurso formal, lido, e preferiu comunicar-se livremente com todos aqueles que estavam reunidos na capela do Centro ad Gentes. E a terceira impressão, muito particular, foi o momento em que eu fui apresentado a ele no momento da saudação. Padre Pérnia me apresentou como sendo provincial vindo do Brasil, um dos mais jovens na congregação. E dentro daquele contexto, no Brasil, preparávamos a Jornada Mundial da Juventude, que aconteceria um ano depois daquele encontro. E eu, então, me referi ao Papa dizendo que nós, no Brasil, o esperávamos para aquele encontro na Jornada Mundial da Juventude. E a reação dele me surpreendeu. Ele abriu os olhos de uma forma como se estivesse um pouco assustado, espantado com aquela frase que eu lhe dizia. Talvez ele nem tenha compreendido bem o que eu disse, porém, 9 meses depois, o mundo ficou sabendo da sua renúncia. O fato é que Bento XVI não esteve no Brasil. E naquele momento, quando eu mencionei que o Brasil esperava por ele, ele teve uma reação que me surpreendeu.
From the end of December until the beginning of January this year, Father Budikleden, the Superior General, accompanied by Father Eric Copper, General Counselor, and Father Christoph Thomas, the GPIC coordinator of Poland Province, visited the Divine Word Missionaries in Ukraine. After their 1-week stay in Ukraine, Fathers Budi and Eric talk about their visit in that country.
Since the beginning of the war in February last year, as a congregation, we have been expressing our closeness and solidarity with the suffering people in Ukraine due to this war. We have asked the European provinces to open their houses and facilities to accommodate the refugees from Ukraine. We also asked all the conference all over the congregation and the lay partners to pray for the suffering people, the refugees coming out from this country, as well as to contribute financially. So our visit was another way of expressing our solidarity and closeness to the people in Ukraine, to our converts as well as SSPS sisters who have been staying there for years and have decided to stay with the people in this difficult time. We have 3 parishes in Ukraine, that is Verbovich, Struga, and Nova Usitska. In these 3 parishes, there are no destructions of buildings as such, but people, of course, are very much affected by this war. There are still refugees around, though less than in the first weeks of the war, but also there are still refugees in our parish in Verbovich. At present, there are 2 families with 11 persons. People in these 3 parishes, especially families, they live in a very uncertain situation, because anytime the male members of the families, those in the age group of 18 to 60, at any time they can be called to the military service. And they know what it means to be in the military service. It's not clear that the person can come back. Also, many families are mourning because their members are killed in this war or are still in the battlefield, not knowing how they are going, what will be happening to them. So it's a very difficult situation.
No dejemos, no solamente a los cohermanos que están, las hermanas que están en Ucrania solos, que sienten nuestro apoyo, que recemos por ellos, pero en una manera más amplia, eso hay que pensar en todos esos lugares donde hay guerra, que de veras valoremos la paz, que seamos activos en defender esta paz.
The SVD Botswana province organized a workshop for the ongoing formation of all the members of the province. The event occurred in Francistown, Botswana, from 9th to 13th of January 2023. All the members were present. The Holy Spirit Sisters, SVD lay partners, and some other SVD from the Afram zone also joined online. The seminar aimed to reflect on the SVD mission commitment in Botswana and South Africa. 2 invited speakers intervened online to help the participants reflect on their mission engagement in the province. Father Stanislaus Lazar, the General Mission Secretary in Rome, talked on becoming an SVD missionary parish and profile of SVD parish, and Father Bevans, SVD from Chicago province, reflected on the Trinitarian foundation of mission, interculturality, inculturation, and JPIC. On the second day of the workshop, they invited the 3 bishops of the dioceses where the SVD are working in Botswana to get their perspectives on the SVD mission in their respective dioceses. They were Archbishop Frank Nubuasa, SVD of Gaborone, Bishop João Rodrigues of Zanin, and Bishop Anthony Rebelo, SVD of Francistown. According to some participants, the 1-week workshop helped to assess the rooms for improvements, particularly in learning the local language. At the end of December 2022, the members of the First Preparatory Commission for the next General Chapter met in Rome at the Generalate to prepare the documents for the second community reflection. There were 10 members, 2 from each zone and 2 members of the Generalate. Father MacDonald shares their experience as members of that commission.
For me to be part of the preparatory commission for the upcoming General Chapter was a tremendous privilege and an honor. At the same time, I have to admit it was a bit intimidating to be selected and invited from so many SVD confreres around the world, and then to represent the Pan Am zone together with my brother, Father Louis from Mexico. This tremendous privilege to be invited to actually help create and give shape to a historical moment in the life of our community, as every chapter gives us that opportunity at a particular point in time to look back at how we have been faithful to our mission and to look ahead to where the needs are calling us to go. So we had about 97 reports to sift through before we arrived in Rome. And then our job here, while we were serving on the commission, was to take from those reports what we could see as some of the common themes, common questions, common trends, and then from that feedback to shape a second reflection guide, which will soon be sent again to the provinces, regions, and missions with some additional reflections and questions to deepen the process of the confreres reflecting on the theme of the chapter and preparation for what the chapter will invite us to consider. For me, this was a very profound experience, and I hope and I pray that as we continue preparing for the chapter, it will help me to feel very much connected with and involved in and responsible to do my part to continue these reflections, and whatever action steps may come forward from the chapter, that I now feel personally responsible to do my part to help us accomplish what God is asking of us.
On the 15th of January, the Feast of Arnold Johnson, the SVD communities in Rome, and the Servants of the Holy Spirit Sisters, SSPS, gathered in the Generalate of the SSPS to commemorate the day. After the prayer, they shared a meal and some cultural activities. We also present images of this celebration in different provinces, regions, and missions.
About formation, we are setting a fire on earth, breaking the walls as prophets of time, upholding harmony, communion, peace, and dignity for all, spreading the good news from shore to shore. Times unceasing, daring disciple dispel the darkness and
Leigos associados à organização do Verbo Divino Beira deseja boas vezes à família amamina no mundo inteiro.
From 13 to 19 January, the General Council, the officials and the zonal coordinators met in Rome for their regular meeting called caucus. All the participants were present in Rome for the meeting except the AFRAM and ASPAC zonal coordinators who could not travel to Rome for some reasons. However, they participated online. We recall that the caucus is an evaluation and planning meeting. This time, a large part of the time was devoted to the preparation of the next general chapter. The next caucus will take place in Nemi in June this year. Thanks for joining us. We invite you to join us again next month. Please don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel.